What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Walkout Network. It's your man, Ant Walker, here with another edition of Unleashed, the weekly panel discussion show. We actually have a guest this time. We got a little lazy on booking guests, but this guy, I mean, we tried to get someone better, but, you know, we're kind of stuck with what we got. So you know him as my partner on the Sherdog live chat show, The Trenches, way back in the day. He is now the managing editor of the Underground. And this is really, I mean, he really did that off the heels of my success. He took everything I taught him and got himself a good job. So I'm proud of you. Jason Burgos, Captain Credential. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. Happy Festivus to all, especially to you, Anthony. Again, it's mixedmartialarts.com, not the Underground, Anthony. Already, your poor work. You're like the DC of this group. Clearly, you didn't put in the work today.
I didn't do the homework. I didn't do the homework.
Like
okay?
that, dog.
And you know what? We're gonna explore this deeper on our YouTube special. That's going to premiere 20 minutes after you're done watching this. So stay tuned on the Walkout Network for that. Of course, you know these two guys at the bottom of the panel because they are here every week putting down solid work. We've got the senior editor of Sherdog.com, the jack of all trades who has mastered them all, Mr. Ben Duffy. Ben, what's going on?
Oh, man, I'm doing really well. One trade that I have not mastered is the art of taking a vacation, because this is theoretically my week off, and I can't help. It's, you know, I can't stay out of the game. It pulls you back in. I had to come and talk fights with my friends.
Absolutely, man. Great to have you as always. And of course, the panel is anchored every week by the man with the stats, the facts, the figures, and the numbers. He is the associate editor of Sherdog.com. My man, Jay Petrie. Jay, what's going on?
Can't quit you, boys. I just can't do it. I too am finally taking a very, very much needed vacation, because the last vacation I took, I worked like 3 of the 5 days off I had. And I wanna ruin everything. So I get up this morning for my first day vacation, and the very first thing I do is something work related. So what are you gonna do besides keep it rolling? But you know, this is actually kind of my vacation too, to sit and hang out and talk shop with you boys, because it isn't a rigid, aggressive, formal thing. But I guess in certain terms of keeping things formal, I guess I'll give you the stat of the week, because obviously the stat of the week is 13. How can it not be? How can it be anything besides Derrick Lewis as the ultimate knockout king of the UFC? He's got 13 knockouts. Nobody's ever been able to do that. Think of all the names in UFC history that smash faces. Nope. Derrick Lewis, knockout king, 13. Very, very lucky number, but there's nothing lucky about what he does.
Absolutely, man. Great stat. Great achievement by Derrick Lewis. And before we get into that discussion, remember to like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. So let's go ahead and start it off with that. I know we've got our outline pushing us in another direction, and we will certainly get to that direction. You guys know what I'm talking about. But let's talk about it. 36-year-old Derrick Lewis, all-time UFC knockout record now. What does the UFC do with him going forward?
I mean, I'll speak up on this. He's not a sideshow yet. He's not. I mean, if anything, if he proved anything this past weekend, it's that he's not a gatekeeper. He's not comic relief yet. We're talking about a guy who's he's fighting the best he ever has. I think what the UFC uses him as is an immediate title challenger if Ngannou beats Gane next month. Like, we're not talking about a guy hanging on the fringes of the top 10. We're talking about one of the 4 best heavyweights in the UFC. Yeah, if Ngannou beats Gane, I imagine Derrick Lewis will be up for the next title shot. If Gane wins, obviously nobody needs to see that run back right away. But even then, like, maybe it's him and Stipe Miocic in the title eliminator. At worst, it's him against the next guy off that Chris Daukaus deck. You know, it's against like a Tom Aspinall or Alexander Romanov. He's still right in the title picture. You know, he's, again, fighting the best he ever has.
I think he's like a UFC. He's like their dream in that he's a guy that can be a main eventer, can fight top guys, but doesn't necessarily care. Like, he wants a title shot, but if he doesn't get it, he doesn't care. He'll fight anybody.
He wants a 3-round title shot.
Yeah, 3 round, which he's not going to get. Daukaus was kind of a risky fight. He didn't have to fight. He could have maybe waited for a bigger name, but he took on the risk of a prospect. He's like the perfect guy. You could put him. He's really legitimately willing to fight anybody. Continues to prove he'll fight anybody. You can put him in big fights. You can put him in main events, pay-per-views, whatever you want, and he's going to offer an exciting fight and likely another record-setting finish. I mean, he's a fucking just a dream for the kind of product and content they want.
Because he's not that wildly expensive. He is the guy you can throw in, and he doesn't command a mega paycheck. Like, I'm sure he breaks six figures, but that's no big deal for the entertainment value that he brings to the company. Like the whole package. You can sell the whole phrasing, I suppose, after what he did. The whole package, you can sell that. You can sell the interview. You can sell the entrance. You can sell the Fat Pat walkout. There's the whole everything about it. The interviews at the beginning of the fight week. The whole experience. It's like the Derrick Lewis experience that you can give, and it's not wildly more expensive than it is some other top name guy, but he is the kind of guy that they will be able to say, "Hey, you're going to fight Jairzinho Rosenstruck," and he's like, "All right, let's go." Like there's no hesitation, there's no concern, there's no rankings. Like he does. Like when I believe it was Mike Bone who told him originally that he had the knockout record. He's like, "Cool." There was no major consideration, ego. Like maybe on the inside he's giddy and excited, but the cool exterior he has, it's just, he's here to fight. He's here to have fun. He's 36, Ant. That's something very important you said. He's 36 years young. We know heavyweights can fight for 8 more years to be top whatever. They're good to go until whenever. Hell, Houston Alexander's 48, 49, and just fought the other day in bare knuckle. And, he knocked a guy out, and then he knocked him out in ground and pound, which you can't do in bare knuckle. But Derrick Lewis is the perfect heavyweight for the UFC. He is the anti-Stipe Miocic right now. Because Stipe is the top guy, top 3 guy, commands a big paycheck, but he's holding out. Derrick Lewis is doing the exact opposite. So that means they're probably going to make them fight each other because that's how life works.
Yeah, and that's a fight that has been discussed quite a lot in the recent past, so it makes a lot of sense. And Jason, I want to piggyback off of something you said. Really good point you had about Chris Daukaus's role in this. Like, he could have waited for someone else. He could have tried to hold out and get a potential late notice title shot or a contender fight or something of the like. But I think another hidden power that Derrick Lewis has is that people continue to underestimate him. They know he has the knockout power, but they don't really give him credit for any of his technical improvements.
He was the underdog in this fight.
Exactly. And for someone like a Daukaus who needs a name on their resume, who is trying to climb up the ladder, Derrick Lewis sounds really attractive to have on your resume, because then you look at him and like, okay, if I could avoid those big shots, I could win this fight. Like I'm probably faster than him. I got better footwork, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. I actually know jujitsu. Like, you can go through a list of things that certain heavyweights have that Derrick Lewis doesn't on paper. But when you get into the cage with him, it's a whole other story. He
knocks them dead.
Yeah. I mean, Derrick Lewis right now is playing with house money. And quite frankly, I think this is something that we've said many times before on this show. Derrick Lewis is just doing what he wants to do. And that is a beautiful position to be in. If Cyril Gane comes out the victor, yeah, he doesn't get that title shot, but hey, at least he avoids a 5-round fight if he doesn't want one. And that train of up and coming heavyweights can look at him as hey, I could beat this guy, and then they can get turned around just like Daukaus did.
I got a follow-up question for you guys, because going back to the point, like, he's perfect for them. He's the perfect fighter in this world of combat sports we're in right now, with Jake Paul being a superstar. We got retired guys coming out making $1 million pay-per-view buys. He's the perfect kind of fighter in that he traverses past just sports. He's that kind of a character. But since Nate Diaz, we all know, is on the way out, he's going to go test his value. He's probably going to maybe fight Jake Paul in 2022, which I could totally see. Can Derrick Lewis fill that Nate Diaz void as that superstar that's maybe not in the – well, yeah, he is elite, honestly, Derrick, but like that guy that's not in a title contender, but he's a star.
I think he already has, kind of, because like we talk a lot about Nate Diaz, but how often do we see him fight? yeah, the star power may not be equal, but we actually see Derrick Lewis on a consistent basis. This is a guy who is active and is constantly in the cage, save for like when he had his back surgery. And I think didn't he have one of his knees reconstructed or something? Like he's been in the cage on a regular basis. Nate Diaz has fought what, like in the last 5 years, what, like 3 times maybe?
No, he's stepped into almost more of like a heavyweight Donald Cerrone role.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is a guy that's
anyone, anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
Fights are almost always exciting, and wins, even more so than Cerrone, wins at least enough to stay relevant.
Yeah,
because nobody cares if you fight 5 times a year if you lose them all. I mean, I know we're going to talk about Angela Hill in a few minutes, but sad as it makes me to say, but yeah, like Lewis, again, he is a title contender. There's a 50-50 chance he fights for a title in the next 6 months. If the odds on Gon and Ngannou are right.
And you know why? Because even though it might not seem it, because he doesn't really outwardly express it, he is a true company man. He is I'll take it. I'll take the fight. I don't care. Look, here's the perfect example. You have an example in his previous fight to Daukaus in Cyril Gane. The UFC wanted Francis Ngannou for, what was it, August or September. And Ngannou said, I need more time or I need more money. And
Ngannou was like, I am in Africa right now.
Yes. And the UFC was able to say, fine, well, Derrick Lewis doesn't need as much money as Ngannou. We'll put Derrick Lewis in. Derrick Lewis is fine. And Derrick Lewis said, hell yeah, I need the money, or I'll take the money. And that was it.
This is after he publicly lowballed his then colleague on the same management company, Jon Jones, to take a heavyweight title shot. So
that's right. Yeah, it's screw it. If Jones is making, I'll title.
Yeah, he's like, I'll take $2 million less than him, and we can get this done. Yeah. So, this is Derrick Lewis is like, it's like built for Dana White's dreams at this point. This era of the UFC. So, good points by all on the panel. Now. Let's keep things pushing here about UFC Vegas 45, because we did have Belal Muhammad, Stephen Thompson. Very, very interesting fight if you're following the career arc of both gentlemen. Wonderboy was completely dominated throughout this. I don't know if you guys scored any 10-8s in this. I didn't, but I'm not mad if you did. But this was a thorough domination by Belal Muhammad, completely out-wrestled, completely out-positioned. Wonderboy in a way that we haven't seen. Even the Gilbert Burns fight, which was a very clear victory for him, wasn't this dominant. So are we talking about Belal leveling up? Or are we talking about Wonderboy finally becoming older Wonder Man?
I don't want to take anything away from Belal Muhammad, because his performance was an excellent performance. It was exactly what he needed to do to beat Wonderboy Thompson. But I've watched him fight gritty, aggressive, front toward enemy wrestlers, and he hasn't really succumbed to that until recently, when Gilbert Burns was able to ground him, like, what was it, once around, and then it was pretty much over. And then Belal Muhammad beating him up and constantly making him work and fight, to make me think that a younger Wonderboy may not have fallen victim to that. He may have been quicker. He may have been able to get on the outside, because we know that lateral movement is Wonderboy's thing. He won't back straight up unless it's to set a trap. He'll move and he'll get on the outside, and he'll stay on the outer edge of that cage, the beyond the black line to get out of the way and have no issue to ricochet off the cage or anything like that. But he seemed to step slower in this fight to the degree that he always has been able to escape. Like, I even think back to like his Rory McDonald fight. When Rory McDonald will back him into a corner, he was able to get away and snipe. This wasn't part of his strategy. I don't know if he couldn't implement it. Belal was able to smother him and take every bit of Wonderboy's best abilities out of the fight. And I like Belal. I like what he's got a lot. I think he's an absolute contender, and this was the best win of his career. But I think I'm going to chalk it up more to Wonderboy, the fact that he's 39 in February, and it just, the speed goes. Cool. And speed and elusiveness is what you need to beat a guy who's trying to smother you, and he didn't have that.
So you know what, you're bringing up some good points about being smothered, the speed difference and whatnot. But Jason, I want to throw one to you. Following up from that, how much of a role do you think the small cage played into Muhammad's success?
I was just gonna bring that up. That's huge for a guy like Wonderboy. Like that was huge. That's what Gilbert Burns didn't have. Maybe Gilbert Burns would have dominated if there was an. That's I feel it's a little bit of both, but it's more like 60% Wonderboy just on a decline with like maybe 10% the cage and then 30% or like Belal. I don't want to crap on Belal's performance. It's unbelievable, impressive. That was my surprise of the night. I was sure Wonderboy was going to win, but that played a huge role for sure. And also, I mean, for me, Belal's best 2 wins are Maya and Thompson. Those are really notable wins, but they're also guys that were at the end of 30s. They're in the end of their career. Well, for Maya, maybe Wonderboy
and
fights
specialists as well.
Yeah, exactly. And like I can't get the Edwards fight out of my mind. He did not look good in that fight. Like Leon was like, to me, like clowning him a little bit until the eye poke or whatever that changed that fight. But I didn't like how he looked in that fight. And that's the elite of the division. That's one of the very best of the division. So it's still hard for me to see him as an elite guy. Saturday certainly made me look like an idiot, but it's hard. Like his skill set still doesn't like stand out like some of the elite guys' skill sets do.
All right, Ben, anything you want to add?
I'm a little higher on Muhammad and his performance than the 2 gentlemen who spoke just before me and said they didn't want to take anything away from Belal's performance and then immediately took everything away from his performance.
What is it? What do they say? Everything before the word "but" is nonsense.
with all due respect.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
I agree that he looked bad against Edwards, but Edwards is a slightly bigger guy who does all the same things that Muhammad does a little bit better. Like that's just always going to be a bad matchup for him. And I think Edwards is one of the 3 best guys in the division. Obviously, Thompson is slowing to some extent, despite the fact that he has looked exactly the same and still looks 25 years old, and it's fucking infuriating. Obviously he is slowing, and these little incremental slipping of that top gear, it's hard to track because in a vacuum, he still looks like Stephen Thompson. He moves exactly the same. He slips the same. He slides out the side. He's got like the untelegraphed kicks. It's just all a tick slower. And when your game runs on what his game runs on, eventually that catches up with you. Smaller cage, probably did have something to do with it. But this was a fantastic performance by Muhammad. And I think we got to look at him as kind of a top 5 level guy at this point. I don't favor him against any of the guys ahead of him. I don't favor him against Edwards. If they rematch that, I don't favor him against Usman. I probably don't favor him against Burns, although that'd be a hell of a fight. But even if, top 5 welterweight is his ceiling, top 5 in the hardest division in the sport to break into the top 15, let alone the top 10, let alone the top 5, is pretty damn impressive. Like, good for Belal Muhammad.
I like the Burns matchup the most because Burns has 1 win since the Usman loss, and it's over Wonderboy. So Muhammad Burns makes a ton of sense because you can't sell Burns Usman 2. I just don't feel you can, because even though he had his moments in the first round, he still got smoked. And we know that the best thing that Usman did in this fight has gotten better since they fought, and we've only seen him fight twice since then. I like Belal Burns a lot to really separate him from the pack. I think that could be a lot of fun.
I get 2 ideas. One, John Anik after that fight kind of threw it, like not shade, but kind of just like, wait a minute here, that he didn't mention Hamzat in his post-fight call out, which I thought was interesting. Yeah, I mean, but would that make more sense? Or are we kind of also forgetting about Vicente Luque? I think Luque versus Muhammad would be a pretty good fight. And I think whoever wins that would be completely deserving of next in line for a title shot.
I think Luque deserves more or bigger. I think that's the only reason why I'm kind of on the fence about it, because his only loss is to Wonderboy, and he's got Woodley and Chiesa as his last 2 are pretty great, but not crazy. But Chimaev's in that spot where he's the up and comer trying to break into the top 10, but he's doing so on the heels of 1 win over anybody with a pulse in the division. Like the GM3 win was
behind him.
Yeah. I just feel like in terms of achievement, Muhammad is just 3 wins ahead of him at this point. I know that. I mean, you're right, Burgos, because the UFC wants to light speed, meteoric rise, whatever the words they want to say. They want to put him in the top, but I want him to see. I want to see Khamzat fight Neil Magny. I don't know why that hasn't been a thing. Neil Magny has been like, pick me, and they just won't do it.
Can Muhammad turn down a fight offer of a Chimaev fight? Does he have enough, or does he kind of have to take that? If he turns it down, he uses all his UFC points.
Right? Yeah. He burns his bridge if he turns that down. And quite frankly, like the shared management between the two, I think it would be unlikely that bout would be turned down if offered. And really for Belal, if he feels it's a winnable fight, that's a fight to take, even though you are at a risk going down in the division, because the star power alone. I mean, his moment was supposed to be the Leon Edwards fight. That was supposed to be the star on his resume that says, I have arrived. With that gone, due to circumstances out of his control, and Leon Edwards has obviously moved on to other things now. I mean, Khamzat is a star in that division. Whether or not he's earned that title is another story, but he is that. And it makes sense for him to fight him if he wants some of that rub, if we're still in pro wrestling terms. So
we're always in pro wrestling terms when it comes especially when it comes to selling a guy like Chimaev. Yeah. Like that is exclusively the way the UFC is building him, as the trash talking suplexing machine, and they want him to run away. But the problem is I don't believe he's vaccinated because he had COVID, and he doesn't want to get vaccinated because he has COVID. And there's still a U.S. travel ban on those that are non-vaccinated. So we're not going to see Chimaev fight for a while unless the UFC goes abroad.
So what? So he can't get vaccinated, right? Like he
just doesn't want to.
He just doesn't want to. Okay, so he almost died from COVID, right?
Yeah,
and he was like coughing up blood on Instagram.
Yeah.
But okay, I just want to make sure it's right in my head. Okay.
That is the last I had seen was statements along. Somebody had asked him, you want to get. He's like, why do I need vaccine if I had the worst COVID I could have? And it's. Yeah, he doesn't train in America. He trades in All-Star in Sweden, right? And so
it's
he's not coming over here.
Tony Kelly and Andrea Lee will hop in the car, go get him. Like,
vroom,
drive him to Texas.
I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons. Well, let's just go ahead, and before that sends me off down another path, let's go ahead and just get it out the way, because we did have some other action Saturday night. This was in the boxing world. Jake Paul rematched Tyron Woodley. Obviously, if you have social media, you've seen the former UFC welterweight champion face planting in epic fashion in what really is officially a knockout of the year candidate from a YouTube star. So, who on the panel actually watched the show? How did it make you feel? What were your overall thoughts, Jason? Looks like you're raising your hand. Did you watch this live?
Yeah, I watched it. I covered it for the site. But I have a follow-up question. Was Williams versus Gore the fight of the night in combat sports just because it was an absolute hot mess? I've never laughed so hard during a fight in my life. I loved it. But that said, I watched it. It was terrible. The main event, oh my God. I missed the knockout because I was tweeting. I was about to tweet in frustration. I was tired of them fucking hugging each other. Every 2 punches was like 1-2 hug, 1-2 hug. The ref was terrible. He was terrible in the Williams-Gore fight. That said, thankfully for them, his knockout saved a so-so card that was overpriced. And I can't lie. I'm a Jake Paul fan in that I like him disrupting things. I like to be able to cover something notable that isn't UFC controlled. And I like him pushing Amanda Serrano into a main event. She's like the best female boxer in the world. Him talking shit about Dana, talking shit about UFC fighters. I enjoy. I like him in this disruptor role. The train will definitely get derailed sooner or later. It may be Tommy Fury that does it. I think that would be worst case scenario for them. But I watched it. It wasn't very good, but at least the end was entertaining.
I didn't get to watch this live. I should thank my wife actually for that. So I tried to watch it live, and then she started fussing at me because we got a bunch of stuff to do because we're moving, so we had to pack and whatever. And she's like fussing at me like, "No, you're not watching the boxing match right now. We got stuff to do." So shut down the computer and I'm helping box stuff, and I check social media, and then I see our former welterweight champion getting lamped, and this wave of sadness hit me, and I was kind of glad that I was spared like the torturous build up to that moment. I don't know, man. I'm happy to see a fighter like Woodley, who went grossly underappreciated as champion and grossly underpaid, getting the bag in some way, shape, or form. I'm happy to see that, but man, I just don't want to see a guy like that who is, maybe top 3 welterweight of all time reduced to this. It kind of hurts, man.
In a 27 fight career of fighting some of the best welterweights in the history of the sport in 4-ounce gloves, he had been stopped on strikes only once, and even then was not cleanly knocked out. Nate Marquardt did the highlight reel Tekken combo for the ages, but you know what? After the fight was waved off, Woodley kind of sat up and shook his head. Woodley didn't sit up on Saturday night for quite some time, and there may have been smelling salts involved. Like it was something, and I agree with you. It was tough to watch, and I agree that he was underappreciated. He was beyond underappreciated. He was disrespected and reviled from the top down, starting with his own fucking boss. Like, it was criminal how he was treated. I mean, he was a prickly dude, and he went from a fight anybody guy to a fight almost nobody guy once he got the belt. Like, I understand some of the fan frustration, but to have his own boss just talk shit on him like he did was just infuriating. I'm glad, as you said, that he got the bag. I'm sure he's picked up the 2 biggest paychecks of his career this year, thanks to Jake Paul. But yeah, it was tough to watch. Like, hopefully he doesn't need more money so badly that we have to see him do that again.
Dave Feldman's already called him, I'm sure. That's the next logical destination, unless, of course, actually, didn't Jake Paul he tweeted out something the other like the day after the fight?
I think it was Le'Veon Bell.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would.
I mean, this actually, Woodley might.
Is it Le'Veon Bell still on my fantasy bench right now?
Yeah. I think he's still an active player.
Hey, you know what? Woodley could pick up more bags, kind of riding the Paul brothers' coattails. If you get a solid co-main event spot whenever they put on one of their circus acts, and he's fighting the next Le'Veon Bell, or Deron Williams decides he wants to give it another go. Yeah, Frank Gore wants to. Yeah, they both lost, so now you put them against each other, and Joe Silva style matchmaking. Like, he could keep picking up bags and go for easier competition. As funny as that to say, because Jake Paul is a 4-0 boxer who just started training 3 years ago or something. So there's potential out there. Just don't pick up the Dave Feldman call, man.
What struck me the most, and I did not watch this live. I am proud to say I didn't watch it live or throw $60 or whatever at it. I had a few colleagues that did, and we were talking about it as it was happening, and I saw the GIFs, and I saw the picture of the face down, all that kind of thing. Tyron Woodley was an MMA fighter for his career, before wrestler turned MMA fighter, champion in the UFC. We had a discussion for a little while that he was very possibly catching up on GSP, past Matt Hughes, catching up on GSP. And yet, he somehow, I think it was probably because of the picture, if nothing else, has managed to somehow diminish his MMA legacy because of what he's done in the boxing ring, because of his 2 losses to a YouTube guy. I think he has hurt his stock as an all-time player, which on paper and on its face sounds ludicrous. But all you can think of when you think of Tyron Woodley, and I don't think this is something that's going to go away anytime soon, is him getting lamped by a YouTube troll. Like, let's say it on his face. This guy is a 4-0 boxer, 5-0 boxer. He's a 4 or 5-0 boxer.
5-0 now.
5-0 boxer who's never fought an opponent with a winning record or even won a boxing match before. Like, cherry pick opposition. Well, I don't even know who he does. I don't even know which Paul it is sometimes. So I am not the target demographic. It could be Logan, it could be Jake. I know that there are two of them, and I know they both do this, but I don't know which one was which. Woodley has attached himself like a sucker fish to the underbelly of the gravy train that is this. And he's going to keep riding the rails of this. And he's going to keep getting paid shocking amounts of money until this all comes crumbling down. And it hurts to see. It just, as an MMA fan, I feel like I shouldn't be affected by this because he's boxing. Let him get paid. But I don't. I feel like his legacy is at risk. I feel like Anderson Silva fights the Paul kid and gets lamped. I would feel differently about Anderson Silva. And I shouldn't. And I don't want to because of things. We all have our thoughts about Anderson Silva. You know, where we think of as he is the great of all time and whatever, and the Blue Juice and the Nick Diaz fight and all that stuff. I feel like this is actually doing legitimate harm to some fighters that compete on this. And it's doing harm to the sport itself because of all the MMA fighters that go, oh, pick me, I want to fight next. Chris Lieben weighed in like 45 times about this. Dustin Jacoby's like, hey, I boxed before, let's do it. And it's not the Paul brothers making MMA look bad. The MMA has made itself look bad, and the promoters have made it look bad by not paying their athletes enough to succeed and to need random cash grabs against NFL players or something. So it's not that I am against the Paul brothers, what they're doing. They are shining a light. They are the sunshine disinfecting all the areas of horrible that we're seeing. It just hurts to see the fighters that we know and love begging. It's worse to me seeing this than seeing 50 G's, baby, 50K. I deserve a bonus for that knockout I got, which is horrible. But it just, something to my core as an MMA guy makes me think, wow, we are so stuck in this industry that the fighters have to debase themselves, so to speak, to get the paychecks they should have already gotten. So I don't know. I feel gross, I think is what I'm trying to say.
And feeling gross, I think, is a natural thing to feel just in combat sports in general. So I'm not mad at that. It's just, I mean, the solution is right there in the question. Like, you know, fighter pay. Like, would Tyron Woodley be chasing a bag against a YouTube guy if the UFC was paying a former champion appropriately, and two, if they weren't trying to purge the roster of anyone who makes more than $5 an hour with the new mill, the puppy mill of Contender Series fighters? Like that's really how we got here in the first place. That Contender Series talent that's fighting for absolutely nothing is going there and pushing out the Woodleys, the Pettises, the Overeems, the Anderson Silvas, the guys that properly command a paycheck. One that, quite frankly, was already undervalued, but you know, to the UFC, they were overvalued. So, I mean, this is something that is going to have, the market is going to have to correct itself. I at this point, man, like the way the fighters are, we understand it's an individual sport and whatnot, and everybody's kind of on their own path of solitude. Man, if they don't get it, if the writing ain't on the wall, that you guys need to unionize, you guys need to join forces to command the best check you can in the sport that you actually have trained for, in the legitimate, martial arts that you have pursued, then I don't know what to tell you, like, because we can't do it for you, So go ahead, get lamped by Jake Paul. Next one up,
Just the sheer notion that a 38 or 39-year-old Tyron Woodley will actually and legitimately and probably accurately say his biggest paychecks are in the sport that he didn't make his legacy at is just like revolting. To think that this is a guy who actually had, not commanded blockbuster pay-per-view numbers, but respectable numbers when he headlined certain events, and that the biggest paycheck will be on some Triller or Showtime. I don't even know which ones they run on anymore. Is just, how can that be?
We're
How
talking
can
about
that actually
a
be?
dominant champion,
Yes!
dominant champion in the UFC who was the co-main for Jon Jones and Cormier 2, co-main for Conor McGregor and Eddie Alvarez, main evented plenty of times on his own. So, I mean, if this guy is, granted, I know he blew a lot of money in his pursuit of his rap dreams and whatnot, but he was underpaid in the first place. So, all right, fellas, let's keep things pushing before we get too depressing here, because that really hurt to see. Now we're going to move things on to shallow cuts. I'm going to assign you guys a question. You'll have 30 seconds to answer. So let's see here. I'll begin with you, Mr. Burgos. In light of Frank Gore and Deron Williams squaring off in the ring, which other sports players would you like to see fight one another?
Oh God. I didn't prepare for this one at all. I don't know. LeBron James fights no, Dwayne Wade fights Shaq. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you just the first two sports stars that popped up in your mind.
Yeah, I just DC'd this shit.
All right. Well, I'll just interject. I'll say, how about you DC the shit? All right. How about, I want to see a tennis player. Like, tennis is like the closest thing, like sure, basketball players are probably athletically the best equipped for combat sports. But
can you imagine taking
players,
some leg kicks from Serena Williams?
That would really hurt.
She would break your shit off, dude.
But the thing is,
boxing,
like the one-on-one aspect of it, the one-on-one aspect of tennis, like the intensity that they like, tennis players are really, really intense. Imagine like John McEnroe in the ring or something, man.
See, that I think that maybe that's a good way to approach this question. Is I want to see a football player fight a baseball player, or a hockey player fight a golfer. I mean, that'd be kind of mean, but just pitting the sports.
Golf isn't a sport,
because that's what they build. Hey. Because like they build this as NFL versus NBA, even though it's not the first one of its kind. It's a.
You know what? Damn all that. I want to see the next crossover star be from curling. That's what we need. All right, fellas.
Or pickleball.
The next GSP.
Pickleball is in our DNA.
Pickleball's the truth. I worked with a guy that played pickleball, and he always was saying it's going to be the next big thing. Just saying.
All right. All right, Jay. I'll keep the ball in your court here. How would KSW champ Roberto Soldic fare in the UFC?
Did you guys see that knockout? Did any of you guys see what he did to Nurmagomedov? Oh my God. Like this, the power that this welterweight holds. This is a guy who's only lost in the last however long is to Dricus du Plessis, who is now in the UFC, and he avenged that loss. This guy couldn't go a long way. We saw what Mateusz Gamrot did this past weekend. Mm-hmm. Just the sky is the limit, but KSW pays him so well, he ain't going nowhere. But I would love to see him take on some big names so he doesn't have to fight Thomas Narkun at 205. All
right. Now, let's see. Ben, you're very thoughtful, man. So I'm going to give you the most thoughtful of these questions. Would Eagle FC picking up names like Kevin Lee, can it actually compete with other organizations that are running now?
If by other orgs, you mean other orgs than the UFC? Absolutely. As far as competing with the big boy, with the UFC, of course not. Anyone can for a year, but that's when you realize that you don't have the same kind of revenue because you don't have pay-per-view, you don't have the big broadcast deal, and you're paying unsustainable salaries to your fighters. But they'll make a big splash for a year or two.
Yeah, I like how you're putting that there. I kind of think that it's a matter of how high they're aiming. How far do you want to take it? Do you want to just keep running? Do you want to operate as a feeder league? Keep in mind too, Eagle FC undoubtedly plugged into the wealth of talent in Dagestan right now. So I imagine Kevin Lee is going to get matched up with some killer named Agadov or something at the end of his name.
Yeah, he's going to fight some dude with a 15-letter long last name, and he's going to get him embarrassed.
With the standard,
and that will be a net loss for Eagle, because if you could make a good go out of it just by harvesting the best of Dagestani talent, PFL wouldn't be a laughingstock.
And there's so many leagues. I just feel like they're setting themselves up for failure by going so big. There's so many leagues that went big and then fail. Elite XC, like Bulldog, all these, like I got to give credit to Bellator and one championship. Like they have kind of existed, over a decade now, both of them. Like they started kind of small and worked their way up. Like there's one championship.
Kind of like Angela Lee.
Exactly.
Well, one championship is kind of crossed over into like just creating action movies at this point with their tape delays. So so they're more of like a movie studio as opposed to like a fight promotion.
The fact that they still exist now,
we're recording now for a winter release,
Yeah.
but Burgos, you do raise a good point because they didn't go for that big splash.
No, they started small and worked their way.
Like this is one that I had seen a long time ago that was just another league happening to be in Southeast Asia. But Bellator didn't want to be a splash, a big move. We have tournaments, check them out. And then they built their way from there. Eagle FC wants that splash. They're going to Miami and they're having Tyron Spong fight whoever Florida is going to let in the gate this weekend. Dude, that's a hard thing to do because then you have to have the infrastructure to keep doing that. Because once you hit here, you can't go down here or people don't care anymore. I love KSW for a lot of reasons. KSW held an event in KSW 39 in a Coliseum that had like 78,000 people there.
What did they call that one?
Funny guy. There were like 6 title fights and champ versus champ. It was a spectacle. It was incredible. It was a blast. Like the whole show was a party. But then what do you do for KSW 40? So, and it didn't reach that. So Eagle FC Miami, it's going to have Rashad Evans and Kevin Lee. And then Eagle FC 45 is going to have what? Replaceable name here.
And also, when they did
who's their matchmaker, by the way? You know who that is? Ali Abdelaziz. Good luck.
Oh, God's sakes. But I mean, didn't Khabib say this was going to be like a kind of a feeder league? Like they were supposed to? Now they've switched from that? Like, what does that say? Does it say there's some kind of issue where they're like, oh, we need to make money fast? Like, how do you go from, oh, we're going to be feeder to, oh, yeah, we're going to sign UFC talent and Bellator down?
Probably because of the people they hooked up with. To get investor money, the Kadarovs, the people who
it's long money, that they're reaching into really could rival what the UFC has in its bank account right now for an extended period of time.
ACA is huge in Russia.
Exactly. So and with an inroad into a region that the UFC isn't as well tapped into. Right. They can certainly carve out their own lane. It's just a matter of how they go about it. And quite frankly, with the names that they have, like if you're banking on if Rashad Evans is like the bankable star, the next go around, you don't really have to aim that high. Like this is a guy who was past his prime, like 10 years ago. So it hasn't been active for 6 years or so. Like this isn't that that far reaching into the stratosphere. So all right, I guess there's one question left, and Jay, would you do the honors and read that to me, sir?
I'd be happy to. And I think Ben touched on this earlier, and it's a tough question because Angela Hill dropped a split decision in her fight with Amanda Lemos, and a lot of people thought she won. Myself included, as I scored for Sherdog.com. She has 4 split decision losses, the most in UFC history. Would you say, Mr. Walker, Angela Hill is the unluckiest fighter in UFC history?
She certainly has a case, but I wouldn't say she's the unluckiest fighter. Despite the fact that she has dropped a lot of split decisions that she probably should have won, she still has a lane carved out for her. She's still a fan favorite. She's still constantly fighting. She comes out unscathed for the most part. Like this is someone who remains active. Unluckiest, I'll give it to a guy like a TJ Grant. I'll give it to a Chris Holdsworth. I'll give it to a Karo Parisian. The guys who were denied their big moments due to other circumstances that were kind of out of their control. So those are the unlucky guys.
I can take it.
Honorable mention for Tony Ferguson also. So
he has a fight booked, and I'm sure it's going to be against like Rafael Fiziev, and we're going to go, oh no.
All right, fellas. So let's keep things rocking here. It's time to break out your seasoning salt, your butter for the pan, any cracked pepper, whatever else makes your food taste good. And let's go ahead and ask that age-old question: How's taste my crow? Ben, you're up first. How's taste my crow this week?
Well, we talked about it a little bit. Well, we talked about it a lot off the top, but I was dead wrong on Belal Muhammad versus Stephen Thompson. I expected that Thompson was not only going to win this, but kind of make it look easy. In fact, on the Sherdog preview, I said this is going to look a lot like Belal Muhammad chasing in straight lines while Thompson slides out the side and just pot shots him and makes him look kind of conventional. That was absolutely not the case. After about the first 90 seconds of the fight, Muhammad won every second of this thing. And we just spent 10 minutes discussing whether it's because Muhammad is that good or Thompson is slipping. I don't know which it is. It's probably some combination of the two, but I will take some nice spicy falafel seasoned crow for sure. Even though Belal Muhammad is fucking American. Like whoever it was in the Apex that Felder had to call this dude out. I mean, I don't know if Felder would have called him out quite as loudly if it hadn't been one of his own longtime teammates in Muhammad. But dude, all I know is some dude in the Apex was just sitting down real low in his seat. But, well, yay for the white guy then, you know?
Yeah, shout out to Felder for calling out that level of jackassery. How much of a complete moron do you have to be to spend what like a few grand to get tickets to the Apex Center to watch a random fight night card? Like, and then you go around saying some stupid stuff like that, and you're wooing in the crowd doing the Ric Flair shit. Like, why?
Like there were like 50 people in the crowd. How do they not isolate him, put a spotlight on him, put his name underneath, and be like, this guy.
Yeah,
he's meeting Belal Muhammad in the parking lot in 15 minutes. We're gonna sell out a pay-per-view.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, you guys have been to MMA events. Once the liquors flow and the stupidity starts going too. I mean,
you think don't do Apex? Okay, that's a dumb question.
Yeah. Yeah, they only serve Modelo and
actually, that's probably that. No, you're not.
There's
you're
not enough Modelo
right
on the planet to justify like you being that big a jackass. That's some like 4.8% beer.
Yeah,
that's some MAGA stuff. You know, it wouldn't have happened 10 years ago. It's the age of MAGA, and that's what gets said with alcohol.
Yeah, that's good point there, man. All right, let's see, Jason. I'm gonna go ahead and ask you to tell us how's Taste Your Crow this week.
I mean, it was Thompson and Belal, but I guess I'll switch it up. The other one, which was a very bitter taste of crow, was I thought, even though he was the underdog, I kind of thought a Sunsao was going to be Simone. You know, I thought that was an interesting pick. I know, you know, Ricky Simone's rising guy, he won 3 in a row and stuff like that, but I always had a lot of respect for Sunsao. He's kind of like behind TJ as like that really, really good contender. Well, but TJ could get the wins and then get the title shot. Sunsao always kind of fell short. But I just think even at his age, he's a very good grappler. Simone's going to take him down. That might open opportunities. But no, Ricky Simone just dominated him. And that one surprised me too, as much as the Belal Muhammad. I mean, Belal Muhammad surprised me more. But yeah, the Simone crow was it was a true delicacy of disgusting.
Once that mullet started to grow back, like the hair on Samson,
yes.
like his strength and power returned to him.
Yeah, he hit that Samson energy, and it was a wrap, son. All right, Jay, how's Taste My Crow this week?
See, I too was going to break out some oregano and go Chicago style because of Belal Muhammad, because I thought that would happen. So I'm going to go another way, and it's going to be kind of a twofer. And I'm going to just pile. I'm not going to use seasonings. I'm not seasoning this. I'm going to add like French fries and cheeseburgers and deep dish pizza. And I'm going to add donuts, and I'm going to add just a smorgasbord, an all-you-can-eat buffet, because I picked a for and against 2 fighters that for some reason couldn't figure out how to make weight, and as a result are the heaviest male and female fighters in UFC history in terms of modern era stuff. I picked against Justin Tafa because I figured, okay, if you're going to miss weight at heavyweight, your knee must be jacked and something must be horribly wrong, because how are you going to miss that? You're my height. What the hell are you doing? And then so I thought, okay, Harry Hunsucker's got a path to victory because Justin Tafa must be held together by duct tape and like cheesesteaks or something. And then Macy Chiasson, I thought, okay, she's already a big fighter in her division, so she's missed weight at featherweight. she's a bantamweight and miserable 148.5 or something crazy like that. I thought, okay, she's going to have 10 pounds on Raquel Pennington if she's cutting to 180 or 184, 148.5. She's probably 165, 168. She's going to be way bigger and stronger, and instead she got 10-finger chokes. So I'm going to eat all the junk food crow, because that's apparently what they did, because wow, history, man. What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's a good pick there. I'm going to mix up cultures this time. It's gonna be American, but it's gonna have a certain Mexican flavor to it. So we'll throw some pico on there, a little sour cream on the street taco here. Cub Swanson against Darren Elkins. Like, I'm more surprised that I didn't pick Cub Swanson going into this, because on paper he should win this fight. It's just, this looked like the fight that he would lose because Darren Elkins wins the fights that he's not supposed to win. This seemed like the perfect opportunity to choke out Cub Swanson, who's got a plethora of submission losses despite his jiu-jitsu black belt, getting out grappled by somebody. That's what I thought was going to happen. And Elkins is a guy who's so relentless and such a force driving forward that I didn't think Swanson would be able to get off a lot of that slick striking, and that's exactly what he did. Kudos to him. Great fight for Swanson, that is. Not the best night for Darren Elkins. All right, so now we're going to move on to the best title segment in all of media history. I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons. This is where we share something that surprised us or ironically did not over the course of the past week. Jay, you are enthused.
I am.
The floor is yours, my man. What's your I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons moment this week?
I wanted to go to KSW and talk about a wacky submission that happened, but I can't not mention what happened after the main event of UFC Vegas 45. It was too much. And it was something I didn't see coming. So Derrick Lewis, famous for taking his pants off after a fight, either shorts off after the fight. I thought he's going to take his shorts off and he was going to have a fun little thing. No, Derrick Lewis takes his cup off and throws it to the crowd. Because I think it was Mateus Gamrot after his win took his mouthpiece out and threw it and somebody caught it. Yay, I guess. I don't know. Gross, but whatever. So throws the cup in the crowd. A guy, a shorter gentleman, by the way, I don't know if that means anything. Just merely an observation, moves someone out of the way, shoulder checks him to grab it with his bare hand, just his bare hand, and pick it up and celebrate and have it. There's pictures or whatever. And here's why I'm genuinely not surprised, Mr. Falcons, because allegedly, this is all allegations, and this was actually brought up in the press conference. Allegedly, the gentleman poured beer into the cup and consumed said alcohol. Now, again, I don't know if that's accurate, but it was an asked question at the press conference to Derrick Lewis. You can listen to it. Our friends at MMA Junkie had a link. I might be able to send you guys something like that. So yeah, maybe the world's first cuppy happened. I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons.
Get some of that nut brown ale.
Hold on. Oh no, Lewis said he was going to have a hot latte. So there you go. I'm really not surprised, Mr. Falcons.
Which I guess is
I'm just loving Anthony's disgust right now.
It's not a good moment.
For lack of a better phrase, Ben, your I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons moment. Can you please give us a palate cleanser?
Oh, well, I mean, certainly moving away from comedy, I was legitimately surprised, and in the worst possible way, when the news came through yesterday that former PFL and Bellator prospect, American top team up-and-comer Jordan Young passed away suddenly, unexpectedly. I spoke to him professionally last year, just interviewed him, sort of catch up during the year of COVID thing, talking to him as an up-and-coming fighter who's, his career trajectory really had been interrupted by COVID. He wasn't some 30-fight veteran just kind of sitting it out and living off of savings and his other sponsorships and stuff. He was like a 4-0 fighter who PFL canceled their whole season out from under him, and was just struck by kind of how mature and intelligent and career-minded he came off for such a young fighter. Yep, and he's dead. He's gone. The tributes are coming out from all the usual suspects you would expect. American Top Team, some of his other coaches, teammates. Inevitably, when a fighter dies, there's the speculation happens right away, and I'm as guilty of it as anyone. Just that train wreck mentality, like, I wonder if he was doing something he wasn't supposed to. I wonder, did he get shot? Did he take drugs? Like, I have no idea, and I wanted to slap myself for even like wondering for a second in the back of my head. For now, all I have to say is, may he rest in peace, and peace to those who knew him and will miss him, and I'm one of them.
All right, well said, Ben. Jason, what's your? I'm not surprised, Mr.
That palate clean enough for you?
Yeah, this.
Okay. It's depression clean though.
Well, it is, but at least he had a really outstanding moment at the end of the PFL. It was actually in the championships when he fought a UFC standout and cut Armari Akhmedov, and he was losing the fight, and he came back in the throne and lamped him. So.
But that's kind of like what's depressing about it. And I'm glad you brought that up, Ben, because I talked to him a few times too. Great guy. Love talking about fighting, big comic book fan. We talk about comic books, stuff like that. Like, just a good guy. And that's the sad thing about it. He finally gets his career defining win. You're excited to see what's next year. And, that doesn't come. But I think, I had two. One was a quick one. I was KSW stripping there was the flyweight champion right before, because he didn't miss weight. I don't know. That was fascinating. That was a bold move to strip somebody when you miss weight. I respect to KSW. But the thing for me that was a bit of not surprise and surprise was the Jon Jones thing. Like, this guy, again, like, slap on the wrist. Like, what's the message we are sending to this, which is still a young man? He's barely in his 30s. Like, what's the message? Like, how many infractions in life does this guy have to have? And like props to Mike Winklejohn being one of the guys to step in. Like, enough's enough, because clearly his friends aren't, his family is not really doing it. Like, so to that, like, we've seen it tons of times with celebrities and athletes that they get arrested, they do dumb things, and they get off. And it's like, you figure with all the stuff he's like, he might really be effed with this one. And again, nothing. Like, he end up paying like this guy damaged a police vehicle, and this guy's gonna pay like
headbutted a police vehicle.
Yeah, like, and he's gonna pay a few $100s to the victim. Like, it's just another sad thing. He's another weird tale. We've seen it again going like celebrities, like these people that get fame very early in their lives, and some handle it well, like Venus Williams, Serena Williams, they handle it well, and then some people handle it terribly. And he's handled unbelievable world-class success, as bad as it we've seen. Like this
middle of the bell curve for the Jones family, but yeah.
But like, it's gonna take him. He's gonna just have to get arrested and go to jail. This is and like the UFC still won't even stand up and do something about it either, which is still sickening. Like you don't need him. Let him go to Bellator. You're not gonna stop making money. He didn't fight this year, and the UFC made the most money it made ever this year. You clearly don't need Jon Jones. UFC, peace him out. Send a message. Throw some balls.
Yeah, I you know what, it's. And we've definitely been critical of him and his behavior many times on this show, and looks like we're down that train again, because we're seeing once again, like, consequences just don't seem to be a thing in his world. Like, honestly, at this point, I don't even think if he goes to jail, like, that means anything to him, because like the way he thinks, the same person who immediately jumped on the Chael Sonnen reports to try to say something crazy about that, who constantly points to fans as the problem when he's the one that was beating on his woman. This guy doesn't think like a rational human being. So this is the person who's probably going to get to prison. He's going to get in the yard, and then he's beat up a few people, and now, well, I'm the champion of the prison. Like, this is probably the sort of thinking that will go on in his head. Or this is another trial that God is taking me through, and blah blah blah, gospel as I snort coke. Like, that's like, this is what we have with Jones. So at this point, man, he's a lost cause. And I'm so, like, when I saw the reports popping up about anticipating a heavyweight title shot in 2022, didn't we? 2020, he said that about 2021. Yep. 2019, didn't he say that about 2020? 2018, did he say that about 2019? Miss me with that shit. Like, I'm tired of that headline. Like, it doesn't. Jon Jones at heavyweight is a myth until it actually happens.
So I think what you're saying is we need to send in Yuri Boyka. when he gets that reference, I'm okay with it.
I don't get it.
Prison fighting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
The Undisputed movies.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He probably won't even be heavyweight in prison. He'll be a cruiserweight or something. I don't know. So all right. Well, I'm not surprised. Mr. Falcon's moment. Good mixed with the bad, but at least it starts with the bad, ends with the good. That's Claudia Gadelha retiring because she has concussion concerns. Said she had some severe symptoms following her last fight, and prompted her to retire and just call it quits while her brain was still intact. Smart move. Sad to see a competitor like her go out kind of on a whimper, but hey, best thing for her, the overall course of her life. The good news in that is that the UFC offered her a job to scout Brazilian talent. So that is great news. And she has a path to earning a living for family and staying in the sport without taking that Feldman call, without going to Bumblefuck FC and and fighting somebody in a barnyard or something. Like this is really good for Claudia Gadelha. So congratulations to her.
And she still has her subscription-based page that's $20 a month that you can subscribe to.
She still got that is it an OnlyFans page that she has?
No, it's like her own. I think it's like GadelhaClaudia.com or something like that.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Oh, well, I'm sure she's making coin off that because MMA fans are disgustingly horny and weird. And
well, if they're going to grab Derrick Lewis's cup, what do you think they're going to want to do to Claudia Gadelha?
Oh, this is a sick sport that we're involved in. All right. Well, let's go ahead and keep things pushing because we're nearing the end of any fight talk because there are no fights for at least in the UFC. We've got 4 weeks off in the UFC. Rizin is got their New Year's show, which maybe we'll talk about that next week. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. But without any fights this weekend, what are your plans? I mean, we got Christmas. Is Christmas Friday or Saturday?
Saturday.
Okay. So what are the family plans?
I mean, I'll jump at it. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I'm fucking thrilled to have a Saturday to myself. No disrespect. I love this sport. I love my job. Thank you for letting me have this job. But I am thrilled to have a Saturday because, I only hang out with my family Sunday and that's about it. And they go back to school and work the next day. So, so just to have a Christmas and not have to work and this kind of things. I know fans out there and I'm sure we'll get those tweets. Oh my God, I miss fights. No fight this weekend. Oh, well, I'm cool. I won't play video games. I'm going to go play Spider-Man or some shit. I'm going to go watch Spider-Man. I'm cool with it. Thank you. Thank you, UFC. Thank you.
I'm going to give a little more disrespect than Mr. Burgos because I actually am irritated that we have to celebrate time off. UFC staged 43 events this year, and the pacing was so painful and bizarre that there was a 10-week stretch of consecutive events. That's ridiculous. That's just, if you have 43 weeks of fight coverage, that means you have how many off every year? Why don't you space it out better? Why we have 4 weeks off now until the next event. Now, granted, 2 are for this year, 2 are for next year, but give us a buffer so we don't have to burn out. I am on vacation starting the end of this recording, and I believe Mr. Duffy will need to be ttoo. And
give us a buffer, but Michael, not Bruce.
I'm okay with either buffer, depending on what they're saying. Like if Bruce is talking about some weird razor commercial or some PD commercial, those are funny. By the way, if you haven't seen them, the little blue pill commercials with Bruce Buffer, those are really funny. Just give us some room to breathe because this is a job for all 4 of us. Like even the high level fan in the corner of the screen right here works hard covering the sport in addition to the bajillion other things he has doing. And we love it. We love this sport. We have our own show that we do for fun with our friends, and we blabber about all the ridiculousness that happens every year. But and we all often talk. I say it all the time. It's a cathartic kind of moment for me to go, all these ridiculous, silly things that happen. But we don't have a time to breathe and appreciate them. Like after some big crazy pay-per-view, let's take a minute to go, let's digest what happened instead of, oh no, I guess we got Derrick Lewis to fight next. there needs to be some better spacing just to make it a more comfortable schedule, because otherwise it's a marathon that has no pause.
It's like suffocating those great moments.
Yes.
I mean, one of the first things we said last week was like, man, this fight card that we spent most of the show talking about today should not have happened. Like, we should be reflecting on the greatness that was Juliana Pena's historic upset over Amanda Nunes. We should be reflecting on the insanity of Charles Oliveira defending his title against Dustin Poirier. We should be appreciating those fighters in those moments. And what a great way to cap off the year. But no, let's throw a Apex Center card so we can have a racist jackass drinking beer out of Derrick Lewis's cup. Like, it just doesn't seem right. And the thing about the burnout too, I think that's a very good point. I mean, this year, I'm sure there've been others, but off the top of my head, we lost 2 good media members to burnout, like Rob Tatum, Dave Doyle, like 2 guys who've consistently put in great work that just said, hey man, they're both guys that I've had the privilege of sitting down and having a meal and a drink with and talking to about the sport and genuinely love it. And then to be like, yeah, man, I can't do this no more, bro. Like, I can't do this. And even for a guy who, has a full-time job outside the sport, clearly I've got my babies and, family life going on, man, it is a task to try to carve out that time every Saturday. I appreciate the sport for being as available, but man, I'll be very happy to take a few weeks off and just chill with the babies, watch some Netflix, catch up on that. Like, not spend the nights watching post-fight press conferences and whatnot. Just live like a normal person. If I'm anything close to that, probably not. Still sexy though. All right.
That's just the UFC. That's not even counting like Bellator's on Fridays, Wednesdays with PFL, one championship in the morning on a Friday morning. No,
that's tape delay. No one cares about that.
Oh, okay,
but your point stands.
Yeah, it's a lot. And then the UFC just does I don't know about you guys, but thank you ESPN. I fucking love 1 o'clock starts or 4 o'clock starts. Thank you ESPN.
Yes.
Like somebody can actually have a Saturday night to themselves with their significant other. Thank you, ESPN.
Yeah, I mean, I remember what it was like as a bartender at a sports bar that showed UFC broadcasts, showed the UFC pay-per-views, and on the East Coast, and you're getting out of there. Granted, it was a bar, so I'm getting out of there 2-3 in the morning every day anyway. But people are there up until 1:30 and it's rocking. Man, those are brutal on the East Coast. So I'm tired as hell on the West Coast trying to stay up for main events sometimes, and this is the West Coast, 3 hours ahead of time. No, I'm asleep, bro. I sleep. Baby, can we not grab the microphone? Thank you. See, she smiles.
There you go.
Oh my goodness. I like that she laughs. You really think I'm going to stop?
Yeah. Look at this. She reaches right out and swats the mic again.
All right, Ben, are you doing anything special with the family?
No. I mean, nobody in my house, really celebrates Christmas. So, I mean, my wife will work that day because as a nurse, especially a nurse in Texas, people who are willing to work on Christmas in high demand. So she'll pull down some extra scratch for that, get herself something nice. I think we got tickets to go see The Matrix coming up. That's about it. I'll relax. I mean, I'll probably watch some old school fights, maybe just for fun, palate cleanser, remind myself why I did fall in love with this in the first place, read some books, play some old video games, and just refresh, recharge, gain a couple pounds.
All right, that's what's up, man. Sounds like some good plans overall on the panel. Ben, since your wife is pulling down the extra shifts and getting that little overtime pay for the holiday. Quick question, man. Can I borrow $50?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll Venmo you.
All right. So that's going to do it for this edition of Unleashed. Big thanks to the homie Jason Burgos, aka Captain Credential, for jumping on the show. It's been a long time, been too long since we had you on again. Looking forward to the next time. And despite all the trash I talked to you, I do love you, man. Miss you. And it's beautiful, man. So Jay, Ben, as always, love y'all to death. Great work, and we are going to do it again and again and again and again. So 2022, some exciting things coming up for the Walkout Network, so stay tuned. So you know what you got to do: like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. Stay beautiful, stay positive, and stay sexy. I'll see you when I see you. Peace.